We are finally here. It is draft week. The All 32 pod will have you covered. Mike Giardi, Will Parkinson alongside. As always, this show brought to you by Prizepicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network, and Gametime. Best prices, best tickets to go in to see any event you want to see. Will, I am fired up. I know you are. A lot of speculation, multiple mock drafts. Had so many conversations. My brain is a little bit fried, but I am ready for this week. I think it's going to be an exciting week.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped up. Can't say I'm not excited to get this, especially the first round over with, and kind of dive into rounds 2 through 7, and kind of see the players that all these teams around the league are able to add. And that's obviously the difference in teams that are successful and teams that aren't. You got hit in round 1, but you also got to hit on day 2 and day 3. We're obviously going to go through here and give our final mock draft before. We're going to do it as a combined mock draft. I got the odds. Mike's got the evens. So if the Patriots take Will Campbell, don't yell at me. Yell at Mike.
No, you can still yell at Will. That's fine.
Yeah, call me Parkinson without a first name. No, but look, I think it's an exciting time of year, obviously, as we know, and I think it's the one part of the year where all 32 fan bases are engaged. It makes sense. Everyone's full of optimism, and yeah, I'm excited to get this thing kicked off, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. It is Monday. It's Marathon Monday here in Boston. We know what a special day that is, obviously, between the Marathon, Red Sox playing the early game as well. So we're taping that this morning, 11:30. And just a reminder, you're listening to the All 32 podcast, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. Use the code CLNS to get $50 off your first $5 purchase on Prizepicks. So you should definitely, Prizepicks, excuse me. You'll definitely want to do that because Prizepicks, it runs your game. All right, so you mentioned it. We're going to do first round. We're going to alternate. If you want to throw a trades in there, go right ahead and do it. But you get to lead us off as you pick odds and I pick evens. And on the clock, the Tennessee Titans at number 1.
On the Tennessee Titans, we're going to start the draft up here. I'm not going to waste any time. I did appreciate our buddy Kyle Brandt's rant, about Cam Ward a little bit earlier on Good Morning Football, and we don't talk about this pick much. Me and you actually talked about it quite a bit. I felt like, last episode, I'm going to obviously pick Cam Ward here. I think this is kind of a no-brainer. And look, I think there's not much else to discuss here. I just think because it's been kind of a foregone conclusion, it feels like for the last month-ish, once they were not going to trade the pick, at least as of today, It became a little less exciting. But again, the Titans get what they hope is their franchise quarterback that can compete, with Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, and company in the AFC South.
Yeah, Cleveland tried to tempt Tennessee with the trade-up option at some point during this process, as did the Giants. The Giants, in fact, were pretty aggressive from all accounts to try to move up. But Tennessee, pretty much since the Combine, has made it clear, yeah, Cam Ward's our guy. And unless someone comes in with something outrageous, we're talking probably 3 first-round picks and then a couple day 2 picks on top of that, it seems like they are standing pat and they will take Cam Ward. And look, I get it. Another season of Will Levis is probably going to cost Brian Callahan his job, and maybe Cam Ward can save that with the new front office in place. Mike Borgonzi, of course, well respected from his time.
It feels like as long as he shows progress, you can't really complain about what happens in Tennessee. They've given themselves a clear new runway. I guess.
For sure. Pick 2 is easy for me as well. We've talked about it a lot. It seems as if Cleveland has zeroed in on this pick. From everything you hear, he's one of the cleanest prospects in the entire draft. Where does he play? I'm talking about Travis Hunter. Well, it looks like Andrew Berry, the general manager, is more open to him playing both offense and defense. It makes sense.
The new Shohei Ohtani.
Yes, exactly. Although, remember, back at the Combine, he did say, I see him as a wide receiver first. So maybe instead of what you have heard is normally going to be the plan, which would be, play him on defense because they have to spend more times in meetings. He's got to figure that stuff out. And then sprinkle him in on offense. Maybe Cleveland goes the reverse, where he plays full-time on offense. And then you sprinkle him in, whether it's, when you go into dime or nickel or whatever you want to do. Not everybody plays nickel a lot, but you get my point, where maybe it's, he's playing 100% of the snaps, mostly on offense, and then it's 25-30% of the snaps, obvious passing downs on defense. But we'll see. Travis Hunter, he is the pick at number 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the first really 4 picks. Me and Mike are gonna go really fast through because they feel pretty chalk. I tweeted this morning, I think this is going to be first 4 picks, and then the Jags start the party at 5.
Yeah,
this is going to be Abdul Carter. Again, I think there's things here to have questions about, hey, is this already a position that they're strong at, or don't they really need more, help elsewhere? Take the best player on the board. He's one of the blue chip guys in this draft. He's, this allows you to maybe move off of Kayvon Thibodeau, Burns, and Abdul Carter, all very similar players in a lot of ways. Carter, the ceiling is extremely high, and of course the Patriots would be happy if either of those two guys make it to 4. I would be shocked if they are. So Giants go Abdul Carter here, and we are chalk through 3 picks.
Yeah, so that puts the Patriots on the clock at 4, and I am telling you, the Patriots have the for sale sign up. They would like to get out of this spot. I can't say definitively that they lack consensus here at 4, but I think there is some internal debate, which is fine. I think a lot of organizations at this point have these conversations where well, it could be this guy or it could be this guy, but you have the pick up for sale. Nobody wants to come up. I think there will be some trades in this draft. I think, you're hearing a lot of no one's going to. People fall in love with players and eventually will move. That's what happens. But I think maybe it's a little too rich for someone to come up to 4 at this point. So picking at 4, the Patriots will roll the dice with Will Campbell and his less than ideal arm length and less than ideal wingspan, and hope that he is the left tackle of the future. Plenty of people have said he's going to be a solid player. That could be the case. I would aim higher if I were them. I would aim for, I'm aiming for an all-pro, but there's been a lot of pushback lately too that, look, this kid is going to be a lot like Rashawn Slater, who did not have the necessary arm length, but had the much greater wingspan, and Slater's turned out to be an awesome player. That's what they're hoping for here. That's what they need. I still think it's a fail if he ends up at guard, folks, unless he ends up as Quentin Nelson or Zach Martin, but certainly a culture setter, certainly a leader. You know what you're going to get from that regard. He's got a nasty streak in him, which is also pretty important. And, hey, you can turn around and say, Drake May, we're doing everything we can to keep you upright, which we had a hard time doing last year.
Yeah, no, makes 100% sense. I think the odds as of last night or this morning on the Patriots taking Will Campbell were at minus 1,000 on most sports books.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't like to make too much of those odds because they're a lot based on maybe not me and Mike, maybe more so Mike, but a lot of what's being talked about and what's being said. Here's where I think the draft really starts. And I've been Mason Graham pretty much all day at this pick. I think there were some concerns that I heard. Look, and I think we talked about this. Mason Graham isn't exactly the guy you're going to bring to a bodybuilding contest. And I know that's not the reason not to draft somebody, but I think there's some questions. Hey, how is he going to, what's going to happen in the NFL and just little things like that. Again, can't control genetics, but obviously big, interview process, didn't really test much. The weight was all over the place. It's up, it's down, doesn't, I think Graham's probably going to be the pick. But there has been some late rumblings, if you follow some of the bigger insiders. Hey, the Jags could go offense here. Mm-hmm. I considered Membu. I definitely considered Genty. I'm going to go Ted McMillan. And, man, I still want to go Graham. I just – part of me, this is where I'm at. I'm probably going to end up picking Tet right here, Mike, and I'm kind of curious what you think. I know it's supposed to be mean. I'm doing just the odds. But it feels like there's been a lot of – it's Graham the whole time. And then as of this morning, Schefter and some other people, hey, not so fast on Graham. It makes me think one of two things. Are they a trade out guy, partner that they're looking to, hey, they move back and does someone want to come up for Genty? Tom Pelissero reported that. Is someone looking to come up for Mason Graham to jump Carolina? Is someone looking to come up for Armand Membu or Tyler Warren and jump the Jets? I think I'm going to take Ted here. We have not done this pick really ever.
Yeah.
But offense, I don't see the Mike Evans comp, but a lot of people do. It allows you to move Brian Thomas around, and wow, now you got your offense, and Liam Cohen can go to work. So I'm going to pick Tet. I wouldn't do this, but the Jags, first-year GM, first-year head coach, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have sort of viewed this spot as a wild card. You don't know what James Gladstone will do, the new general manager, comes from that Rams tree. I think it's interesting. But I get it because of his size and maybe some of the times the ball placement with Trevor Lawrence isn't great. So now you've got a bigger receiver with a greater catch radius, and then you combine that with Thomas, and it allows Liam Cohen who is an offensive guy first. So I think the first and most important thing for him is let's make sure my offense is cooking, and then we'll figure out the defensive part of this. And they have a couple good edge rushers on that squad anyway. But like, let's go this route. I like you would not do Ted McMillan this early, but I understand the thought process here, and I sign off on the pick. That puts the Raiders on the clock at 6. And now all of a sudden, oh, wait, Mason Graham sitting there? I can go Christian Wilkins, Mason Graham, Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, and my front four. That's pretty nasty. However, I've got this little issue. My left tackle, Colton Miller, not showing up for OTAs, unhappy with his contract, 29 years old. Look, for a team that wants to win now, I just figure it out with Miller because you know what you're getting there. He's a top 12 to 14-ish left tackle in the league. Not a dominant guy, but like solid sound. You could trust him. But as we stand right now, maybe being uncertain about that, I'm going to go Armand Membu here, thinking to myself, well, I can try to put Membu at left tackle if the thing with Miller doesn't work out and they end up moving on from him. And if he does stay and you do work that out, then Membu competes with DJ Glaze, who was their right tackle last year, second-round pick out of Maryland. But again, remember, this is an entirely new front office, so there's no loyalty to any of these picks. And I'll go Membu with the ceiling and the ability, if need be, to move him to the left side and see if that works.
Yeah, no, I think this is the way the winds seem to be blowing again. I don't know if anyone expected Graham and Genty and Warren all on the board here at 7. I think this is Tyler Warren. I know you're going to see, could the Jets trade out here? I've thought about, does Carolina look to move up a pick? You know what? I'm going to do our first trade.
Oh, look at this.
I'm going to say that Carolina jumps in front of the Jets here with the Jets pick to take Mason Graham. I know it's not going to be it's not a big, let's say they give up their 4th?
Yeah.
They give up Dallas's. I'm going to force this because whatever. Let's say they give up their second, 4th round pick here, and they swap with the Jets. I think teams are going to start to make the moves for Mason Graham here and be, hey, wow, well, he's on the board at 7. The Jets have had Graham in for a visit. We've seen all the leakage there of, hey, would they be interested? And he's been connected to them. Carolina, I think, would love Mason Graham, next to Derek Brown in the middle there and really build up the trenches. I know they'd like to obviously maybe get an edge rusher where they like to get a linebacker in there, sure. I think if Graham's on the board here, he'd be the pick. And I think Carolina does what Minnesota did last year. Hey, maybe New Orleans, Chicago, these other teams might try to jump us, San Francisco. And I think the Jets need more picks. So I'm going to have the Panthers take Mason Graham here at 7 with a small, very, modest end of the 4th round trade up.
Hey, it ensures that you get the player that you want. They have 8 picks, I believe, the Panthers in the first 5 rounds, 2 4th rounders, 3 5th rounders. So they have some capital to play around with. And if they're concerned, as you mentioned, there has been some connection to Graham, and now all of a sudden he's sitting there at 7. Teams start to get antsy because I think we talked about the top tier being Hunter and Carter.
Guy? Is he not?
Yeah, he was in that second tier. So this is, quote unquote, good value picking at 7 and for just a small trade up. That puts me on the clock for the Jets. I wasn't expecting this, but now it's easy.
Now you're going to get yelled at if you don't take Kelvin Banks.
No, now I'm taking Tyler Warren. Makes all the sense in the world. You have attached, you in particular have attached Warren to the Jets for some time here and have been leaning that direction. We know the involvement here. We know that this kid is another one of those really squeaky clean prospects where teams are like, we don't even have to bring him in for a 30 visit because we know exactly what we're getting with this football player, someone that Penn State felt comfortable enough, obviously getting the ball to in a million different ways, including as the Wildcat quarterback, handing it off to him. He had the incredible 16-catch game against USC, which, just go look at it. It was pretty incredible, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. They also had no problem running behind him, and while he's not, you hear the Gronk comparison. He's not Gronk as a blocker. Maybe he can get there because he has the size, but good enough that you can run the offense.
He doesn't look that fast, but he's always open. Contested catches.
Yes,
the whole thing. I think Warren here makes a ton of sense, and he idolized John Riggins as a kid. The whole thing. He's got the Shockey comps as well. Mike, I'm on the board here for New Orleans. This one's tough. Colston Loveland comes to mind. Do they go tackle? Is it a Kelvin Banks? Is it Josh Simmons? Is it a Jalen Walker? Is it, I don't know. You could go on the list here. Is it a Shamar Stewart? There's a lot of guys. We talked about this before. I think the Saints are a wild card. I'm going to have them taking Michael Williams here. And I would not do this. Full stop. I would be extremely against this move. But they have a prototype for the way they like their edge rushers. Big, physical, great against the run. Pass rush moves develop. Cam Jordan's got, a year, maybe two, if you really push it.
Yeah.
And I can see him trying to hang on as long as he can. Obviously he's kind of the media space is where he's starting to push himself towards. This feels like we could use a lot here. Tet's off the board. I don't know if they go golden in this spot. They need help everywhere.
Yeah.
Could also argue right tackle, although they took Fuanga. They've, oh my God, they took, what's his name, 3 years ago. Yeah. So
it's been a disaster.
He's been a disaster, but again, it's like new regime. Do they give him one more shot? I think they go Michael here. I wouldn't do this. There's other guys I like a lot better, but he's just him or Shamar to me feel like the perfect, like we need to replace Cam Jordan long term. Can Cam Jordan get to 20% out of Michael Williams playing alongside him for a year or two that everyone thinks is there? Mm-hmm. All these wins are Michael's going to go way higher than everyone thinks. He's a guy, 38th, 39th on Trevor's board, and most people, I think, have him at the end of the first round. I have Michael Williams going here in the top 10. I did not expect to do a Tet and Michael in the top 10.
No.
I think with Genty sitting here for the Bears, which I'm sure is the direction you're going to go. But this is one of those better players. Mike Green's a much better player than Michael Williams, but there's the questions with Mike Green with the off-the-field stuff.
Sure.
And again, Michael fits that prototypical scheme fit with the Saints of big, physical, run-stuffing defensive end that rush the passer. You get those 6 to 8 sacks a year, but really hard up front. So that's where I'm going to go Michael Williams here for the Saints.
Well, it's interesting, because there's been sort of a split vibe on Michael, right? And he played with the injury all year, the ankle injury, which kind of robbed him of his explosiveness. And then everyone expected him to run better at the pro day. He did not run better. He's a 4.75, but he already has an identifiable superpower.
Yep.
And that's as a run defender. I think he could have played run defense in the NFL at 18. He's only 20 right now. So that I think there is projection here. Hey, he's a good player. Maybe the pass rush comes later. Because I think when you watch Georgia tape, you'd like to see him be more productive as a pass rusher. But I think they're looking at the age, the go-go gadget arms, the ability if they want. A lot of people have said this to me where, hey, he could kick on 15 more pounds and be someone that rushes from the interior in a year or so, at 280 on third downs. And obviously the Saints are talking about more and more about playing a 4-man defensive line. They need an edge guy. So I like Michael Williams. I do. But it's a little rich. It's definitely a little rich. Speaking of rich, do you want to get rich? Well, I don't know about that. You want to play safe here, but Prizepicks does a great job, as always. Incredible real money sports action, over 10 million members, billions of dollars in award winnings. It's made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on 2 players, up to 6 to win 1,000 times your cash. So just for instance, we've got the basketball playoffs right now. You got NHL hockey. You got their playoffs as well. You got Major League Baseball. You think LeBron is going to rebound from a poor performance in Game 1 against Houston? Look at the totals. If you think he's going to have a big game scoring, just take more on the points, combine that with another player or more, and have a chance to win big money. Download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. All right, I'm not going to waste any time here.
Ooh, before you pick this, I'm going to propose a potential trade.
Shoot. I'm listening.
Is Dallas coming up here, and then the Bears take Loveland at 12?
Intriguing.
But you're going to stick with Genty.
I'm sticking with Genty. I'm just going Ben Johnson. Okay. I like DeAndre Swift. Not great, but I like him. Give me DeAndre Swift and Ashton Genty in the backfield. Again, we've talked about what they've done up front with their offensive line in free agency and through trades. They put themselves in a position where they could take the best available player, and I don't think there's any question at this point. The best available player is Ashton Genty. with Ben Johnson's history with the running backs, makes a lot of sense. Chicago, sneaky playoff team. Everybody was a year early last year, but if Ben Johnson's the kind of coach we think he is, this could be the year, and Ashton Genty could be the guy that helps him get over the top.
On the clock with San Francisco here. I've gone back and forth on so many different guys. Walter Nolan, think would be a great fit. I think there's some stuff that, Robert Saleh, and it depends, first of all, how much influence Saleh has in this draft room, because Nolan, Shamar Stewart, Mike Green, even a Jahdae Barron make a ton of sense. Would it be nice to add Colston Loveland and George Kittle, and you have this dynamic duo, him, McCaffrey, and Ayuk. Like, wow, we got, Brock Purdy, a ton of weapons. Mike, I think this one's easy. And you know exactly where I'm going. This is Josh Simmons. Trent Williams, replacement long-term. I think this is the best tackle in the draft. I think there was reports this morning. Josh Simmons' medicals actually checked out great at the Pro Day. And Trent Williams has got, I bet you, I don't know, maybe he's got a year left. Who better to have take over than the guy who probably plays the most like him in this class? So to me, this was an easy one. This is Kyle Shanahan going, I don't know, we'll figure out, we'll play the best five. This offensive line low-key stinks. And we're going to have to pay Brock Purdy or not, or whoever. And we're going to need to protect him. And I want to run, my wide outside zone. And we got the most athletic tackle in the draft, and we trust medicals. To me, again, the defensive line stuff fair, cornerbacks fair. Will Johnson, I'm sure, would be a great fit here. But if Josh Simmons is on the board, we and you have talked about it. It starts at 11 for him. I said it should start at 4, but it starts at 11 with him. And I think the Niners do the smart thing and invest in the trenches on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, look, if they're comfortable with the medicals, and again, we've talked about him being a different kid, like not a bad kid, but not necessarily always super motivated. So you're going to have to push that right button, but that's a pretty good place to go. There's not a need for him to play immediately. So, hey, if he starts the year on the pup, to make sure that knee is 100% full go by the time he gets back on the field, you do it. He's obviously played right tackle in his previous tenure at San Diego State, so he has that ability. I don't know if you've watched San Francisco. Right tackle, been a problem for them since McGlinchey left. So makes a lot of sense. Like the pick. All right, so on the clock with Dallas. Jerry has teased the idea we're more likely to trade down than trade up. Obviously, we've passed on all the trade up opportunities. He takes a couple phone calls, but at the end of the day says, nope, I'm staying right here. Considering Matthew Golden, considering Will Johnson, but there's been some buzz for this, and it sort of makes sense the way
I know where you're going.
The Dallas Cowboys think and the investments that they placed on the offensive line. How about Senior Bowl star Gray Zabel from North Dakota State with the 12th overall pick in the draft? I know, a little bit of a shocker. Probably thought late teens, maybe early 20s, but they have been attached to him recently. I think Breer had it in his most recent column. Yep. And if you look at how Dallas has drafted, as much as Jerry wants the toy on the outside, the shiny object, they have done a very nice job of building the front line. They spent some picks last year on the offensive line. They continue to address it and try to build a wall for Dak Prescott coming off the injury.
I'm going to be boring here, and I'm going to go Kelvin Banks. I think the Dolphins have no choice. They need to address the offensive line. Their, corner and safety make a ton of sense. I get it. Defensive line, the whole thing. This is Kelvin Banks to me. I think we get the run of tackles, and Miami has no choice. I mean, they got to protect their franchise, kind of cornerstone in Tua. Just to recap here, Mike, through 13 picks, we're, through more than a third, obviously, the first round. Number 1, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, 2 to the Browns, Abdul Carter, 3 to the Giants, Will Campbell, 4 to the Patriots. With the 5th pick, the biggest surprise so far the first round, Tedoroa McMillan to the Jaguars, Armand Membu to the Raiders at 6, Mason Graham in a small trade-up with the Jets at 7 to the Panthers, 8, Tyler Warren to the Jets, Michael Williams, 9 to the Saints, Ashton Genty, 10 to the Bears, Josh Simmons, 11 to the Niners, Gray Zabel, 12 to the Cowboys, and 13, Kelvin Banks Jr. to the Dolphins. Colts are on the clock. I would be very surprised if you don't go in the direction I think you're going to go.
I think one of the I think 93% of mock drafts have a tight end going to Indy. And I'd say 89 of those had Colston Loveland being the pick here. Falls into your lap. He's probably a top 10 player in this draft. Obviously more Travis Kelce than, again, Rob Gronkowski, and we're comparing him to two Hall of Famers. It's not fair, but sort of the more of the move tight end. But as Nate Tice did a really good job in an article he wrote a couple weeks ago, maybe a better blocker than he's getting credit for. Colston Loveland for the craptastic quarterback committee of Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. So there are plenty of guys to throw the ball to. Whether or not they can hit those guys remains to be seen, but it's Colston Loveland. No problem.
So the only counter is I wonder if Jalen Walker, Mike Green come into effect here. I know Loveland makes sense. I think Atlanta is here where I'm struggling a little bit, Mike. And I want to go Mike Green, and that's where I think I'm going to end up going. But do they look at Jihad Campbell and they do look at Jalen Walker? Those are the other two I'm thinking. I'm going to probably settle on Mike Green here. I don't know.
Well, look, they have 4 picks.
Yep.
5. They have 5, and Minnesota has 4. So they are a clear trade-up candidate. And now that you have 2, we have this run on offensive players and offensive linemen in particular.
You know what? I'm going to do a trade here.
Teams are calling.
Inter-division trade. Of course, the Bucks, if they come up here, what do they have to give up? A 1, a 3, and next year's 4? Does that seem fair to come up 4 picks? Is that a lot?
That's a lot. Would they get
I'll say that's a 1 and a 3, and next year's 6. They get 3 picks out of it. Tampa comes up. Yeah, that makes sense. They pick up an extra pick this year, an extra pick next year. Shocker here. Jihad Campbell. Did that work? Great. Okay. Well, I just botched this. It says the Falcons are picking twice. This is the Bucks pick. I'm going to have the Bucks taking Jihad Campbell here at 15. Ignore that it says the Falcons. Stupid PFF mock draft simulator. We love you. A little bit of a shocker. I've gone 2 trades here. But Jihad Campbell, 15. The Bucks feel good about the shoulder. They get their playmaker to their linebacker play was horrendous last year. They get their, weapon for Todd Bowles to use. I considered again Walker, Mike Green, for Atlanta, but Atlanta picks up an extra 3 and a pick next year. And even though it's interdivision, the Bucks, get their guy in Jihad Campbell.
I'm going to go cornerback here for Arizona. Jonathan Gannon gets a movable piece in Giardi Barron, the defensive back out of Texas. Some say he's better as a slot. Some say he might be better as a safety. He's played some outside corner as well. Give me that piece for Jonathan Gannon as he continues to build up that defense. Had Michael Williams been here, would have done it. Not. I'm going Giardi Barron. I think he is one of the best available players and certainly the best corner on the board right now. They take him.
I'm going to go easy here. I'm going to go Mike Green, 17 to Cincinnati. I think there's a chance we see some movement at the edge position. Obviously, from the Bengals, Mike Green, too good of a player to fall outside of the top 20. Again, there's some guys here that are still available. Will Johnson, Jalen Walker that are, Walter Nolan, Malachi Starks, Golden. There's a lot of guys available still. The Seahawks will be quite happy, I think, with the way this first round kind of fell. But although I think they'd love Gray Zabel, but hey, we're going to run on defensive players and playmakers here in the middle of the first round. Campbell, Barron, and Green in the middle of the round. Mike, Seattle's on the clock. John Schneider is going to take Chris Carson's clone. No, I'm just kidding.
So this would not have been a place that I would have gone, but the fact that he's still on the board when he's, in my opinion, he's one of the 5 best players in the draft. Jalen Walker, the edge/linebacker from Georgia, has to be the pick here. Put him in Mike McDonald's defense. Mike McDonald will have a plan for him, which I think is important because as people call him a tweener, he prefers to be called a hybrid. I see him more as a hybrid too. Dance him over the guard center in certain situations, have him play off the edge in others. He can be an impact player for that Seattle defense as McDonald continues to build that defense into something of what he had in Baltimore, which was versatile, a bunch of chess pieces that he could move around and attack offenses. Jalen Walker's the pick.
So I think Atlanta would have loved Green or Walker. They're probably sitting there slightly regretting moving back with a division rival, but there's still some really good players on the board. I think they're going to Dominic Ezeraku here at 19. Still a little high for me, but I think position of need, Raheem Morris gets a chess piece here, a guy who's super bendy, super twitched up, and obviously a great 3-cone, things like that. Dominic Ezeraku at 19, run on pass rushers after a run on tackles, here through the first 19 picks. So Ezeraku here at 19 to Atlanta, again, picks up, there's extra picks. They need to address that defense. And again, a guy like a Walter Nolan, a Derek Harmon, those guys make sense here as well. Obviously losing Grady Jarrett, but I think Ezeraku, to me, top 20 player, is more than fine value. And again, one great way to Mike Kay, who covers the Panthers, is infamous. He says it every year. The best way to evaluate an edge rusher, besides the tape, do they do the 3-cone? And boy, did Ezeraku do the 3-cone.
Yeah, he did. And it's interesting. The league is I feel like there's a wide variance. I've talked to some teams like, he's a good player, but he's a second round player. Then you talk to some who's like, this isn't too rich for him when you talk to some teams. So, he has a little bit of a wide variance, but look, great production the last couple of years, particularly his final season at Boston College. So Denver, we've attached Denver to a running back for basically the entirety of this process. We also had, if Loveland had slipped, you give Sean Payton his joker. They signed Evan Ingram in free agency. Yeah, I don't know that
Evan Ingram's not preventing you from signing anybody.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say that's not something that would prevent me from doing anything. But so I keep coming back to running back, but I keep coming back to the running back that I think over the last, let's call it 10 days or so, has gotten a lot more buzz as a first-round player. I love him. And I can see Sean Payton loving him because, of course, we both have incredible offensive minds. It's Trevion Henderson from Ohio State. He's not an every down back. Like, because of some of the durability things and the size, no one thinks he's going to be a 25 carry guy like Omarion Hampton. But what they do think is he's a 12 to 15 carry guy. And then there's also 5 pass catches. And he's awesome in terms of blitz pickup. Like, I've said this a bunch now. Quinshon Judkins, the other running back at Ohio State, much bigger, cannot pass block. This guy will absolutely bury his helmet into your chest repeatedly. He's excellent at it. So, Sean likes to throw. He wants to protect his developing young quarterback at Bo Nix. Give me Trevion Henderson at 20, and let's see what kind of year he puts together, because I could see like 700 rushing, 600 receiving, like all kinds of stuff for this kid's capable of.
I think I'm going to keep this short and sweet. This is Kenneth Grant to the Steelers here. This is a no-brainer to me. It's Grant or Harmon probably. Maybe it's Walter Nolan too. But again, we talked about, Cam Jordan down in New Orleans. I think, Steelers aren't getting any younger, and they got to kind of start to replenish some of that talent. Obviously, Highsmith's a good player, Watt, Hayward, et cetera. Cam was awesome last year, but again, make his life a little easier as he gets into his mid-30s here with a guy like Kenneth Grant next to him. So Grant goes 1 pick ahead of Harbaugh at the Chargers. I thought that would be potentially where they would go there. But I think if Mike Tomlin's reading the room, I don't buy this as a sure spot at all. There was Aaron Wilson, who's a very strong reporter out of Houston, had a report that Sanders totally tanked his interview with the Steelers. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I think Rodgers ends up going to Pittsburgh, and they only have 1 pick in the first 2 rounds. They got to get an instant starter here, and I think Grant starts day 1 and makes them a lot stronger in that division.
So I'm wrestling with this one because I got Matthew Golden on the board, and we know that Justin Herbert could use another weapon. You've got Omarion Hampton, who would fit the sort of personality that Jim Harbaugh, Jesus, the Harbaugh brothers, one of the Harbaugh brothers, Jim Harbaugh, would love. But I'm going to do something a little different because I look at their defense and I look at their edge play. Bosa's gone now. Khalil Mack's back for another year, but, older.
Yep.
I'm going to go with betting on the traits, betting on the upside. And he has got a nasty streak to him, so it's not as if he doesn't fit from a personality standpoint. I'm going to go Shamar Stewart to the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, 4.5 sacks over 3 years makes no sense when you consider he's built out of granite and has this explosive speed, and he's got all these different things to his in his bag. But I think if someone's going to get that next level out of him, Harbaugh's a pretty good guy to press that button and get him going.
Keep this one short and sweet. This is Will Johnson. You finally see the top corner, in my opinion, come off the board. Not sure what's going to happen with Jair Alexander. I mean, they cut him. They got to pay him to cut him. But they got to continue to add this defense. And this is a division that, a lot of talented throwers of the football, a lot of talented offenses, a lot of good receivers. Will Johnson played up in the cold weather. I could have gone Abuka, Golden, Burden, etc. I just think the Packers sit there and go, let's get the best player probably left on the board consensusly is Will Johnson. And the foot checks out, the medicals, the whole thing. Mike, we're going to go to pick 24 here. Before we do that, let me just recap the last 10 picks for those people listening. Loveland at 14 to the Colts, Jahad Campbell at 15 to the Bucks. In a trade-up, Jahdae Barron, 16 to the Cardinals, 17 Mike Green to the Bengals. Jalen Walker slips to 18 with Seattle. Dominic Ezeraku to Atlanta in a trade back. Trevion Henderson, one of the bigger shockers of the first round, goes 20 to the Broncos. Kenneth Grant, 21 to the Steelers. Shamar Stewart, 22 to the Chargers. And 23, Will Johnson to the Packers. 9 picks left to go, Mike. This feels like a trade-out spot for Minnesota. Is this have we found our Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders, the Giants or Browns trade up?
I think
or
there's no
Jalen apparently.
Yeah, which again remains. You know what? Let's put a pin on that real quick. Let's hear about game time because we got NBA. Like I have been obsessed with the NBA playoffs already. I'm kind of mad, because it's a local holiday. There should be 4 games today. There's only 2 in the NBA playoffs, but. I'm definitely going to find myself at a Celtics game at some point here as they hopefully repeat as champions, although OKC looks awesome. But anyway, how would I do that? I just go to Game Time. They've got the Game Time filter, picks through all the fluff, gets you the right seat, shows you where you're sitting, as I mention all the time. That really gets to me. All-in pricing, so the total of your cost is right up front, which is important. You don't go through it. I'm only going to pay $150, and then when you go to check out, it's $227 because you have all these fees. That's not the way it works here. It really takes, honest to God, like if you really know what you're doing, you're done in like 5 seconds. Bing, bam, boom. So just download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. So this is interesting because Minnesota has 4 picks. And there's a bunch of players on the board that they would be very intrigued by. Walter Nolan, Malachi Starks, Nicky Manwari. Would they go guard here? There's been some, I can't pronounce the kid's name from Arizona. There's been some late first-round buzz for him. Tyler Booker's on the board right now as well, though I think he might be too big for the way they do their offense. But let's go trade up. Let's say it's Cleveland. Let's say Cleveland is willing to move up from 33 to 24. You got to give me 67. And you got to give me a future day 2 pick. So let's say round 3.
So basically a 2 or 3 in next year's 3 to move up 9 spots for who
they might be getting off easy. You think it's worth a 2 here? I'm looking at the trade chart.
I'm going to say they give up 216 also.
All right, throwing an extra. Yep, yeah. Done deal. Make the trade.
Okay.
And Cleveland comes up, and guess what? It works out just perfect for Deion Sanders the way he wanted it. He gets both his guys in one place. Shedeur Sanders will be competing for a starting quarterback job with Joe Flacco, and we know he's not going to get any help from Flacco, and from Kenny Pickett, and we know Kenny Pickett is not very good. So what's the over-under? Shedeur Sanders starting by week 8?
The week 1?
He's taking the under. He's taking week 1. Yeah, I think and this look, Stefanski's a really good coach. We talked about it months ago when you were wondering if he was going to get fired, and you were like, if I'm the Jets, I'm first in line. He and Vrabel, Johnson, that would have been the 3 guys that everybody wanted to fight over. I think he's still a really good coach.
Yep.
This is the kind of quarterback that fits his system. And so Shedeur Sanders on the trade up makes a lot of sense to me.
This one to me is easy. I think this is Josh Connerly. There's a lot of places Connerly could go. High to San Francisco at 11. Could he fall out of the first round? Where does he go? I think Houston runs in the card here and says, wow, we got one of the best pure tackles in the draft. We need to address that position. We've addressed it in other ways, but we don't, we just traded our franchise cornerstone left tackle. We get another couple run on offensive players here, potentially, but the Texans go running the Connerly card. And to me, this would be great value for them at 25, not having to move up, not having to move back. I think if Simmons was here, this would be a home run pick. I think I've mocked that like 12 times, but Connerly goes 25 here to Houston. And, we're into the actual good teams in the NFL for the last 7 picks here.
I love that pick, by the way. I'm a fan of Connerly.
Yeah.
I would have him rated higher than some of these other tackles. And I think he's still growing as a player. So I really see high level potential for Josh Connerly. So the Rams are on the board. Malachi Starks is sitting right there. I got an old quarterback, though. My backup is Jimmy. I told everybody I like Jimmy, and I'd be fine having Jimmy as a starter. But we all know what Jimmy is. I love Jimmy, but we know what he is. So is this the Jackson Dart place? Well, the phone is ringing. It's the New Orleans Saints. They do not want to be left out without getting a quarterback in this draft, as we had them taking Michael Williams at 9. They could wait at 40 and pick Tyler Shuck. Just feel like Jackson Dart, there's been a lot of smoke and a lot of conversations and a lot of work done on Jackson Dart. So I think they're going to come up and trade up for Jackson Dart. This feels like you're going to have to give me a future first. That this is a 1 this year or your 40th this year. And
what if they go 2, a 3, and a 2, and the Rams basically move back 14 spots? They pick up a third rounder, a second rounder, and then they have multiple 2s that that they're going to move and groove at the deadline. I don't know if
I can get behind that. I will take that offer.
Okay. Saints on the board. Is this the Jackson Dart spot?
Yep, Jackson Dart. Bing, bam, boom, done. Get my quarterback. He's going to take a little bit of time to develop, I think, if they're doing it right. But from everything I've heard, Kellen Moore is a fan of Jackson Dart. Like Jackson Dart better than they like Shedeur Sanders, so they don't reach for Sanders early. Let Cleveland come up and get Sanders. They just take Dart. They're happy, and they move on.
Oh, this is the Walter Nolan spot. I thought about does he fall to Philly? But to me, man, the Shamar fall this far. Who is this a James Pierce Jr. spot? This feels like Baltimore takes a shot on a guy with some character stuff, or just baggage, for lack of a better term, and says, hey, this is the top 10 talent in the draft. We'll figure out a spot for him. We'll make it work. And, I think this leaves Detroit in an interesting spot. Ton of receivers on the board. We haven't gotten the run yet, which I think kind of similar to last year. We got the run early, and then everyone started to fall a little bit, and a lot of guys end of round 1. Keon Coleman was like, oh, definitely a first rounder, and all of a sudden he's still on the board. Back half of this round, Mike, before we get to these last 5 picks, anybody that's surprising you we haven't taken yet? I feel like Golden's the only guy I can think of that maybe the league kind of sees the way we do, where he's a good player, but I don't know if there's other better players than him.
I mean, I've talked to people who like Egbuka better than him. There are certainly some people that are intrigued by Luther Burden. Again, I go back to the quote we had that I read to you last week about, like, people look at Burden and say he could easily be the best receiver in this class. Like, he's got that potential to be that. You wonder about some of the baggage that he brings to the table and whether or not he'll mature fast enough. But again, his tape from 2023 is absolutely spectacular. I don't know. I don't think that I think Golden is the one that when Starks didn't test awesome. So that probably brought his value down. Didn't have a great season at Georgia. I'm a big Starks guy. I like him a lot. I've considered him a couple times here at various points, but here's what I'm going to do with Detroit. You're mentioning receiver. I'm not going there. I'm going Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. I think he's a really good football player. I think, again, he's someone who's getting better. There's room for him to take a big step forward as a player, a penetrating defensive lineman. I think he's tough. I think his tape last year was pretty freaking awesome. And if I'm Detroit and I'm looking at the number of injuries that I had, and now that I'm counting on a bunch of guys, like all these guys are supposed to be coming back, but will they be the same level of player? I'm going to make sure that I am insured in that area, and easily can pivot to to someone else as the season goes on. But Derek Harmon is my pick here, defensive tackle out of Oregon.
Washington on the board. I don't know. Is this Donovan Jackson, Tyler Booker spot? Do we see more defensive line play? Is this James Pierce Jr.?
Been some rumblings about that too, that maybe they're one of those teams that would be willing to take the risk on Pierce.
I'm going to go Amari and Hampton here. Best playmaker on the board. They need a back. Get Jaden Daniels. They're a team that can take a shot, right? They're not. You got to be a little careful. I don't know if they're actually quite as close as they were a year ago, but need a back. Amari and Hampton, I feel like, has to go in round 1, and 29 feels probably like good value for him. Probably feels more like where he should be going. Again, do they need a trench play? Do they need a corner? Yeah. But I think they sit there and go, hey, Jaden Daniels in a rookie deal. Can we just maximize this thing? Hey, the Zeke and Dak thing where 2 guys on rookie deals at the same time. We don't have to pay either guy. Buffalo, Kansas City, Philly here. A lot of good players available. This feels like the Pierce Jr. spot, right? Or is this more a linebacker? Is your boy flying? Is Carson Swenginger coming to fly into the first round? What do we get? A little Milano clone?
I mean, that's an intriguing one because he certainly is everything that they have valued in the linebacker position. But am I crazy here to now look at Matthew Golden and say, okay, I know we keep investing in pass catchers and Kincaid hasn't worked out as the move tight end, but he had injuries. He was really good his rookie year. Some questions about Coleman's maturity. Aren't many questions about Golden's maturity. Again, doesn't play to the 4.23 40 speed, but gives you another option on the outside. I'm looking at Matthew Golden saying he's the best player on my board. And even though I want to go defense here because I'm still looking for that closer, I can't pass up Matthew Golden this late in the draft. I'm taking Matthew Golden at 30.
Yeah, this feels like we need to just keep giving Josh Allen weapons and figure it out later type of deal. Second last pick here. Man, I think this is the Pierce Jr. spot. I think this is them just saying.
We know, right? We know they don't.
They have no issue with the character stuff.
If you're a character risk, whatever. You're a good player. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Mike, to finish out here, I'm going to implore you that I think Mason Taylor's the pick here. Now, there's a lot more options on the board maybe than I realized, so maybe that's not what they do. But I think if you saw Mason, even if he's not the pick here, I do think tight end's a real possibility. I don't think Arroyo goes as high. Feels like Mason Taylor finds himself in round 1. Daniel Jeremiah said at some point pick 15 or later, which was whoa, okay. Now we're I love Mason Taylor. I thought more than anybody, and I had him 30 to 40. Yeah. I feel like the Eagles are a good soft spot. I'm curious what you do here because, again, Abuka on the board, there's no way he's a second-round player. And I guarantee you, the start of round 2, someone's trading up for him if that's the case. Starks is on the board. There's still some edge guys there. What are you going to finish us out with, here in this, our first live mock?
I'll tell you what, I'm literally going back and forth in the draft room because I like all these guys. Taylor makes great sense because I have a feeling that Dallas Goedert's not going to be on the football team come training camp, whether that's on a trade or a release. That feels like that's the way that's headed. Still a really good football player, just hurt all the time. I think he missed 8 games last year. I just can't count on him. So Taylor would be the logical pick. But because tight end is so deep, do I think I can maybe I can maneuver a little bit in round 2 and come up and do Arroyo, or maybe I like Gunnar Helm or one of those guys. Maybe I like Harold Fannin. I don't know. Just putting it out there. But based on my A.J. Brown questions with Ibuka, that'd be the great, hey, draft him. He's the 3rd receiver. And then when we decide after this year forthcoming, when AJ once again is, very active on social media and reading books on the sidelines and questioning our quarterback passive aggressively,
He's threatening people currently on Twitter who
Well,
own his car.
I know, and I got to tell you, wrong guy to steal a car from. He is a mountain of a human being. I would not want to see him angry at me.
No.
We're debating. You know what? I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go Mason Taylor here because Goddard's not going to be. AJ's on my team. I just paid him a $30 million roster bonus or whatever. Like the dead cap, I believe, is like 80 million, 90 million. So for all you Patriot fans that keep thinking that's going to happen, maybe next year, but not this year. Mason Taylor will be the final pick of the first ever all 32 alternate mock draft with your pals, Mike and Will. That was a lot of fun. And interesting because of some of the decisions early, the Tet decision, the Michael decision, that we found some really good football players in the back half of the first round that I don't think have found their way to many mock drafts in the back half of the first round, in Golden in particular. Jalen Walker went 18. I feel pretty good if I'm coming out of this thing. And you know what? I feel good about some of the trade-ups. Like the idea that Cleveland was able to come up, remember, they were being linked to Shador. McShay, who's very plugged in, went on this big rant, and he made a lot of sense the way he talked about, like, hey, this is what fits, and blah, blah, blah. The fact that they can come up and get him again at 24, like the value, that makes a lot more sense there than it did at 2. So you get a terrific player in Travis Hunter who's going to be a cornerstone piece for you, assuming his body holds up to the NFL rigors. But now you paired him with his college quarterback, and now you have a new identity there for sure, right? They're going to sell a lot of jerseys, which does matter. They're going to sell a lot of jerseys, and they might find themselves digging their way out of that hole that the Deshaun Watson trade and the contract and all that stuff got them into. Yeah, no,
I think, and we did some hectic stuff, but I think that's going to be a crazy night on Thursday night. And, are we going to go 32 for 32? Probably not. But I think there's a few picks in there where, oh, wow, you guys have really high on this. And it's like, yeah, because the NFL works in the same way every year. It's like tackles and pass rushers go really early, and teams get desperate. They draft for need. Owners get involved. Guys are about to get fired. This is what happens. And in a year where there's not a consensus of who the top 15 guys are, generally, you get weird picks like Michael Williams at 9, but Walter Nolan in the late 20s. That's just what's going to happen. Mike, obviously Friday morning, I think we're likely, or Thursday night, depending on timing. We'll probably try to get something out to you guys, and obviously throughout the weekend recap it, and we'll give draft grades, which everyone loves. I hate, but everyone loves. Mike, anything to sign off here before we let the folks get themselves ready to go?
I just want to say quickly, this is what you want to talk about, being at the top of the draft and the phone calls that are going to be made. Because as I go through this, I see Omarion Hampton still on the board. I see Malachi Starks still on the board. Nick Emanwari still on the board. Nick Scorton, by the way, who I love. I'm totally coming around. If someone took him in the first round, again, the Purdue tape, I fell in love with the Purdue tape, and I know he was at A&M last year, but that's one. I'm trying to think of any other guys that popped off that we didn't take. Well, Ibuka, obviously, as I mentioned. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. The point is, there's a lot of good football players, so the draft definitely doesn't stop after round 1. In fact, a lot of people will make some good money with some smart picks here in round 2. I'm supposed to read something else here, Will. What is that? Oh, this is what I'm supposed to. Guys, we get different reads every week, and I don't do a great job of maintaining my focus on some of these. For those that are listening to the show, we ask you to subscribe to the podcast, like and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel where you can find our show and a lot of other great Patriots content and also all 32 content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. He is Will. I am Mike. As always, we appreciate you being along for the ride, and look forward to bringing you a lot more draft content as we get into the weekend and 7 rounds of mayhem. It's going to be great. Thank you. Enjoy the week, and we will talk to you soon.
It is caught! Touchdown! The New England Patriots select Drake May.